Welcome back to Fabric School, the series where I, a textile technologist, tell you how to spot high quality clothing. I made a video already on how to buy button-ups, what you need to look out for, all the different details that show you if it is a high quality piece or not. I also made videos on jeans already, but all of those, once again, are short form videos. If you prefer short form, feel free to watch those. If you like long content, this is the video for you. I'm going to go through everything that I also mentioned in my short form videos. I'm trying a new setup today. I'm trying to do this one with a mic because my last videos I filmed with the mic of my camera and I didn't love the sound. So let's see how this works. Let's talk about jeans. When it comes to jeans, there is so many things that you can look for that will tell you if it is a high quality pair of jeans that is going to last as long as possible in your closet. The main thing I'm focusing on in this entire series is durability, because for most of us, we want our clothing to last as long as possible so we don't have to purchase anything new. First thing you're going to look at whenever you buy any sort of piece of clothing is what material is it made from. Denim is traditionally made from cotton. So what you are looking for is one of two things. Either you want to have 100% cotton, or you want to have, let's say, 97% cotton and up to absolute max, I would say, is 5% spandex. Spandex or elastane, same thing, you want to have in your clothing to make them stretchier. So spandex is the thing that pulls the garment back together once it's been stretched. So your skinny jeans, the only way they're going to be comfortable is with spandex in there. Spandex breaks down quicker than the rest of your garment, which is why if you've worn skinny jeans over a long period of time, the back of your thigh, you're going to have like this ripple stuff going on that just kind of looks weird, especially when the jeans aren't worn and stretched. That is the elastane breaking down. So if you do not need your jeans to be stretchy to be comfortable, I would always suggest going for 100% cotton, no spandex. But if you need the spandex for the specific fit you want to wear, as little as possible. Now, what kind of cotton? There's different types of cotton. There is regular cotton, there is organic cotton, and then there is also recycled cotton. Regular cotton, it's not particularly good for the environment when it comes to growing the cotton and watering it and pesticides that are being used. So if possible, especially if you're buying new, definitely try to look for organic cotton. At the thrift store, you will tend to find more so regular cotton, but at that point it has already been produced. So that is usually what most of my jeans are made from because I buy them at the thrift, so they tend to just be 100% regular cotton. When it comes to recycled cotton essentially means you have garments made from cotton shredded up to get the cotton fibers back, and then that is respun into thread, woven into fabric, cut up into the pattern pieces, sewn together again. What this means is your cotton fibers are going to be shorter than they were to start out with, which means that your thread and therefore also your fabric are going to be a little less strong. They're going to be a bit weaker. So if you're going for recycled cotton, I would stay away from 100% recycled. I would go for a smaller recycled content. Now that you know which fibers your fabric are made up from, it is now time to look at the fabric itself and the quality of said fabric. The way your fabric is going to hold up over time with wearing and washing, you will never be able to tell 100% when you're buying it, but a couple of things to look out for are: number one, traditionally denim fabric is made from a twill weave. A twill weave is a specific type of weave pattern, and you can see it by the very distinct diagonal lines in your denim fabric. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed that on your jeans. So that is the first thing you're looking for. You want that twill weave because that is what actually makes it denim. Number two is going to be your color. So essentially, the main idea of denim is originally dyed from indigo. Nowadays, it is dyed with synthetic indigo, but synthetic indigo is made to have the same characteristics as indigo itself. And those characteristics are that it actually washes out pretty easily. Because of that, what will happen with your denim is you will get this specific wash over time. So originally, you would buy your denim in a super dark blue. And over time, you would see the wear of your jeans. You would see how you lived in them. You would see the edges of your phone in that back pocket. All of those things come over time with living in your jeans. But over the last couple of years, and also decades by now, what happens is manufacturers artificially kind of put that in before you even buy the jeans. So they already look lived in worn in, and you will have these like faded spots and areas where your jeans might crease and everything. That is the wash of your jeans. And them putting that in artificially already puts a lot of strain on your jeans and on that fabric. And therefore, from the very beginning, your jeans are probably going to have a shorter lifespan. This doesn't mean that every light blue pair of jeans is bad. There's a difference. So essentially, light blue pair of jeans that were made originally to be light blue, there is no wash put into them. They are one solid color all throughout. That is different. Those were not treated in the same way as these light wash jeans. These were treated in a way where they were dyed in a darker blue. Then you either stonewash them, or oftentimes you add a little bit of bleach as well. Stonewash essentially means you're putting stones and your pair of jeans into the washing machine at the same time, and those stones kind of rub on all of the edges that are then going to look a little bit more worn. Similar with bleach. Bleach, if you've ever bleached your hair, and if you know anything about it, it essentially strips away the outer layer, and it's doing that with all of your cotton fibers as well, which means that they are going to be weaker to start out with. So if you want the strongest pair of jeans, buy them dark wash blue, like dark blue solid color. This goes for other colors as well, by the way. If you like your jeans black, for example, if it's one solid color of black, or kind of a black where you have all the creases already in there, it's the same principle. Now that we've covered the fabric, let's go into the other details. So number one is your hardware. So hardware is essentially anything that has metal or plastic, anything that's not a fabric in your clothes. So specifically for jeans, that is going to be studs, buttons, and zippers. So the first thing you're going to look at is your button. Your button, you want that to be tight. You don't want it to be spinning around or loose or whatever. You want it to be tight. Additionally, if there is a logo on that button, you want that logo to be in the correct orientation. If it's kind of tilted or sideways, that means that they didn't care enough to pay attention to do it right. And that oftentimes means that it was made in a rush, or that there is not good enough quality control. So you want the logo to be in the right orientation. That's a sign for them paying attention. Number two, your zipper, you want it to do two things. Number one, you want it to go up and down pretty easily so it doesn't get stuck. Number two, though, you do not want it to open up by itself. And some zippers, actually, if you put down the zipper puller, they will self-lock, essentially. So those are always pretty nice. Not all jeans have them, but in general, you want them to open and close easily, but not open by themselves. And then the very last thing is going to be studs. Studs are honestly something that used to be in jeans much, much, much more so than they are now, but you usually have them around pocket openings and stuff. That is just to reinforce those pocket openings so they don't tear open. Now, those studs nowadays are usually replaced with bar tacks. I will get into those a little bit later. Now let's talk about some seams. Specifically, we're talking about the seams along the leg, so the inseam and your side seams. So on those seams, there is essentially three categories. Level one is a seam that is closed with a chain stitch, and the edge is closed with an overlock stitch so it doesn't fray. Number two is the seam being closed exactly like that, so chain stitch and overlock stitch, but then the seam allowance is folded over to one side and top stitched, probably once again with a chain stitch. Number three is going to be a felled seam. So there your fabric is looking a little bit like this, so no seam allowance is exposed. That is the strongest seam and the most complicated to sew. You need the most specific machine for that one. What you're looking for ideally is to have the felled seam on the inseam and then seam type number one on the outside. Why is that? Number one, it is very difficult to have strong seams, so seams where the seam allowance is laying flat, or a felled seam on both the inside and the outside. Because for seam type number 2 and 3, you need the fabric to be laying flat and open to sew it. And then once you have a tube, it's much more difficult. So for that, either you need a whole bunch of time, which no one has, or a very specific type of machine, which not everyone can afford. So in that case, your best bet is to close the side seams with the weaker seam, because your inseam has a lot more strain to it when you're walking. So make sure that the inseam is the one that's stronger, preferably a felled seam. Now, if both of the seams, the inseam and the side seam, If both of those are a felled seam or one where the seam allowance is stitched down, that is a very good sign that they have specific machines to actually work with denim and with making sure that your denim is the highest quality it can be. On top of all of those seams, there is one exception, and that is selvaged denim. Selvage denim, I'm not even going to get into right now because usually selvage denim, especially new, tends to be quite expensive and it's not something that most people go for. But selvage denim, essentially you use the selvage of your fabric, so the very edge, which is already nice closed off, nothing is going to fray, and you use that on your side seam. So your pattern is made in a very specific way so that the side of your leg is straight. That is selvage denim. Very, very nice quality most of the time. Just a quick little side note. There's two more things left. One of the things is something that I'm very, very passionate about, which is incredibly random, but it is belt loops. There's a couple of things you can look at when it comes to belt loops to see if those jeans are going to be good for you. Now, how important the belt loops are totally depends on whether you pull your jeans up by your belt loops, which I would never recommend, or whether you wear a bunch of belts. If you're like, I don't use them anyways, I don't care if they can hold up, they're not going to fall off, feel free to skip this. But otherwise, here's a couple of things you can look at. Number one is the amount of belt loops. I'm very passionate about the fact that every single pair of pants should have 6 belt loops. And what I mean by that is I want 2 belt loops in the center back. Just one belt loop I always think is a little bit weak. For me, the belt always just kind of moves up around that belt loop. It doesn't sit quite right. I've seen it on so many people that their belt gets an indent from that belt loop because it's just one spot that is having like so much pressure put on it. So 2 belt loops in the back is what I would suggest. Number 2, this is something that very, very, very few brands do, but it is the fact that your belt loop ends should always be sewn to several layers of fabric. So the top end is always on the waistband. That is several layers of fabric. That's usually fine. The bottom, however, tends to be the problem. So the ones in the front typically hit a section of the pocket, so there are several layers. The one in the back usually hits the center seam, especially if it's 1. If it's 2, that's a little bit more complicated. And then the ones that are kind of on the side, they will very often hit just 1 layer of fabric. So here's a couple of options. Number 1, the companies can put like a little piece of fabric or felt or whatever it might be on the inside to make that a little stronger, which is what most companies do. But there are some very denim specific brands that will make the belt loops longer to make sure they hit some sort of a seam where you're going to attach it. So that is something you can look at, but you're probably not going to find it for all the belt loops for most brands, but it is something that is definitely, if you see it, that's a very big plus. And then the very last thing is the end of your belt loop. So the top end usually is loose, but the bottom end can very easily be hidden inside the waistband. So I'm gonna insert a clip. This is what it should look like. If it is not inserted, that is a bad thing. And then my last point, which also in part has to do with the belt loops, is all of the little details that are there to strengthen your denim. Specifically, most of the time nowadays, that is going to be just bar tacks. So your belt loops are going to be secured with bar tacks at the top and the bottom. Your bar tack should look opaque. You shouldn't be able to see fabric through your bar tack. So essentially, what is a bar tack? A bar tack is a very short zigzag stitch. So your thread just goes back and forth and forward very slightly. And what brands do when they want to get it done quicker and cheaper is they increase the stitch length. And then it's very much a zigzag that you can look through. That is what you're trying to avoid. What you want is a very thick, obvious, fat line. And those bar tacks are also in a bunch of other spots in your pants to reinforce them. So pocket openings, either front pockets or back pockets. Also at the bottom of your zipper. There's a couple of spots where you definitely want them. They are important because denim is such a thick and heavy fabric most of the time. If you're going to pull on those details, that might cause a tear if there isn't reinforcement that kind of distributes that force. Those are some of the things you can look at if you're trying to find a pair of jeans with a high chance that is going to last you longer in your closet. I hope this video helped you out. It totally depends on who you are as a person and how you wear your jeans, what factors you need to prioritize, and what you need to choose. So like I said, if you're wearing skinny jeans, go for spandex, try to keep it low. If you wear belts a lot and pull your pants up by your belt loops, maybe make sure that those belt loops are put on and in general sewn as well as possible. But as always, to each their own. Clothing is so individual to every single person's body. Don't forget, all clothing pollutes the environment, so make sure to first check secondhand, mend your things. If your belt loop comes off, there is a way to fix it. Even if it tears through the fabric, there is a way to fix it. So maybe go check out a YouTube video, do some hand sewing while you watch a movie. Clothes aren't made to last forever and ever. You can do your part as well to make them last as long as possible. If you have any questions ever on how to mend and fix anything that's broken, feel free to reach out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Good luck finding your perfect pair of jeans, and also enjoy looking at your jeans very differently from now on. Also, if you're new here, I did make a video on button-ups, what you need to look out for when you're purchasing those. And before that, I actually made deep dive videos on the textile industry itself. So how yarn is made, how woven fabric is made. So you can find out a little bit more on what a twill weave actually is compared to other weaves that are out there, or also knitted fabrics, how knitted fabric is done on an industrial scale. All of those are in my channel. You'll find them very quickly. There's not that many, but in case you're interested in this, you might also like those.